Hello everyone. Was starting to make a shells blanket for my living room, and I thought, oh my gosh, why don't I show you how I'm making it? So I have some of this Karen anniversary cakes. I had 3 of these, and which is works perfect, but I've had it stored forever. It is a super bulky number 6. They recommend an 8mm hook. That is what I'm going to be using today. I'm going to use a 8mm metal. Can you see that? But this, you can machine wash and dry it. Like, I love this yarn for blankets for the couch. That way, you know, the dog jumps on it, gets hair or whatever, dirt from outside. It's super easy. You just throw it in the washer. It's perfect. And the color I'm using is called Pelican. So this skein of yarn is a whopping 1,000 grams. Of course, 100% acrylic, but the 1,000 grams, there's a lot of bulky yarn in here. I love, 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 and I get these at Michael's. I'm assuming they're still available. I haven't purchased one in a while. They had this awesome special, and I got a bunch of them then. But they all start, when you purchase them, this little dot on top, and it has the starting yarn attached to it. So all you have to do is just cut it off, and away you go. So there's no yarn, no end hunting, trying to find out where the yard end is. Okay. So this shells blanket, it is set up where you do one row that is basically like a frame row that tells you where you're going to put your shells in the next time around. So it's only a 2-row blanket, 2-row repeat, and it's just super easy. It's super fun. So to get started, you're going to do 40 chains. I don't have any other size recommendation. Just the way that I have done it all of these years, I do 40. To me, it seems like it grows out more even. There's videos out there where you start it, longer, but when you do that, it grows taller than wider. And this one, it grows out pretty even, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to do 40 chains. 9, 10. And of course, you use whatever yarn you want. I have a sample of a worsted weight yarn that I will show you after we do some rounds on this, so you can see the difference between a super bulky yarn like this one and a worsted weight yarn that I have. All right, so we have 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so I'm going to do 40, and I will meet you back here. All right, I have my chain of 40. We are not going to add any extra at the end because a chain of 40 is just what you need. Anything that's been added has already been added. Okay, so we are going to go the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4th chain from the hook. Yarn over. We're going to do a double crochet. We're going to mark our first stitch. That chain 4 that we did is a double crochet in a chain space. So here's our chain space. This is where we brought everything together. This is our chain space. So this right here is the top of our third stitch. This is our third stitch, this is our fourth stitch, and then this is where we came together. And you can see we made a double crochet V-stitch here. Okay, this is part of a corner. And I don't want to explain too much because it can get confusing. So I'm just going to say this is part of a corner. All right, now we're going to chain yes, we're going to chain 2. We're going to yarn over and do a double crochet into that same exact space. Okay, so these chain 2s, let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit. There we go. These chain 2s are corner spaces, okay? So it's setting up like corner, and this is going to be the top, and then we'll do another corner over here. But trust the process, okay? So we started off with the V, we did a chain 2 to make another, well, it's really just a chain 2 space. It looks like another V-stitch though. But this is going to complete this V-stitch. So we're going to chain 1, yarn over, go back into that same exact space. Okay. This is the way your corner stitch will always look. It will always have 2 of these put together with a double chain space between them. This is an actual corner. Okay, now let's go back to our chain. Because we have so many stitches into this one space, it can kind of stretch out and push these yarn bits over this next stitch. If that's happening, just pull it over so you can see what the next stitch is, okay? We're going to skip 2, 1, 2. In the third one, we're going to do a double crochet V-stitch. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. All right, so now we have the corner, the V-stitch, the next V-stitch. All right, we're going to put V-stitches all the way down this side. We are not chaining anything. We are just skipping stitches. So we're going to skip 2 more. 1, 2. Go into the third. Double crochet, chain 1, go back into the same space. That is the repeat for this round, down this, all the way down the side. So skip 2, double crochet in the third chain, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Next one, skip 2 in the third, you're going to double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. V-stitch. Okay, we keep going. Skip 2, double crochet in the third chain, chain 1, double crochet again, same stitch. 1, 2, go to the third chain, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. 1, 2. All right, 1, 2, third. skip 2, double crochet, V-stitch, skip 2, skip 2, we should be on our last stitch now. So when you skip 2, there's one right here at the end. We're going to do a V-stitch in here. All right, now take a minute just to hold up your work and make sure that you did 2 double crochets with a space, with a chain in your stitches, because there are times, I don't know why, I'll just put 1 double crochet, skip 1, and then start the next. Again, you guys are better than I. But I just like to make sure I haven't made a mistake. Okay, so we are in our last stitch right here. And now we're going to go around, make 2 corners, and then start down the other side, okay? So we're going to chain 2. That's going to be our corner. You're going to double crochet back into that same stitch. Okay, so we've got our corner space done. So we have our corner done. Now we're going to chain 1 and do another double crochet. So we have a V-stitch, a chain 2 corner, and a V-stitch. So now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to chain 2 to make our next corner. By the way, this tail, I'm just going to sew it in, or crochet it in as we're going. So I'm just holding it to the work. All right, so chain 2, double crochet into the same stitch. We now have a chain 2 corner, a V-stitch, and a chain 2 corner. We're going to chain 1, double crochet into the same stitch. So now we have this V-stitch, a chain 2 corner, a V-stitch, a chain 2 corner, and a V-stitch. Okay, do you see how we went all the way around, but we put 3 V-stitches and then 2 chain 2s for our corners. All right, so we're going to continue down this side. All right, so we're going to V-stitch all the way down the side now. The easy part about this one are the V-stitches here. You're just going to match them. Okay? So this V-stitch, this V-stitch, this V-stitch, these are the stitches that you're going to go to put the V-stitches on the other side. You're just going to match the same stitch. So we're going to yarn over. If you need to count, you still can, because it's a skip 2. You're going to go right in here. Chain 1. double crochet. So now you have the 2 V-stitches, the one we just did and the one on the bottom side are in that same stitch, and that's what we want to do all the way down. So you're going to skip 2, double crochet, V-stitch, skip, go to the next one. You're going to meet every V-stitch on that other side. All right, come on, yarn. There we go. Yarn over, V-stitch. You're still skipping 2, but you know you skipped 2 on this side when we did them. So if you just want to match up with what we've already done, so if you're still counting 1, 2, go into the third. 1, 2, 1, 2, V-stitch in the third. 1, 2. And there are different variations of this pattern on YouTube. And you can find them using V-stitches with half double trebles, or half double crochets, half double treble. Why am I doing that? I just make up my own stitches. Okay, I've made it down the side, and we're on the end. Our stitch, where all of our stitches went in, is right here. We have the side, a corner, and the top. Okay, so that means we need a corner and the side to complete this. So we're going to V-stitch the side in. Okay, so now, see, we have these 2 V-stitches that go together. Now we have these 2 V-stitches that go together. So now we need corner. Chain 2. Corner is always chain 2. Always, always chain 2. And we go into our space that's being held with our marker, and I just do a slip stitch here. Slip stitch, you catch the yarn and you go, let me just show you. Slip stitch, you go in the stitch, catch the yarn, come through the stitch, and this is where you would normally catch the yarn and do a single crochet, but we're not catching the yarn. We're just going to go take that yarn through the other loop on the hook. Goodness, I have the hiccups. Okay, now we have our sides, our corners, and our middle. This is our foundation round. This is the round that's going to start everything. Okay, cut this. All right, so now we're going to, again, at the beginning, always trust the process. We're going to go into the middle stitch, or the middle V stitch, okay? All right, we're going to go into the middle V stitch. We're going to do a single crochet, okay? Then we're going to chain 2. This is going to count as a double crochet. You're going to mark the 3rd chain in that, it's the 2nd chain. It's the 3rd stitch because we did the single crochet and then chain 1, chain 2. So you're going to mark that chain 2 space. That's going to be the top of your double crochet. And this is where we're going to start our shells. All right. So we're going to put a total of 5 double crochets into this V stitch. And that's going to make our shell. So this is 1. We're going to do another double crochet. That's 2. Another double crochet. 3. 4, 5. So you have 1, which is your starting chain, your single crochet and chain 2. Then your second double, your first actual double, but it's 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 double crochets on here. We go to the chain space. You're going to do a single crochet there. Now, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I mark all of my corners. And these single crochets become new corner spaces. I mark them because when you're doing this, especially as it gets bigger, you're only looking out for 4 chain 2 corner spaces. And I don't know why I do it, but somehow I end up skipping them every time. And I don't mean to, but I'll look at my work when I get this row done, and I will see that I only have 1 V-stitch in there, in that corner space. I don't know. I'm just saying, it's easier if you mark the corner space now, okay? All right, so we have the chain 1. We have the single crochet in the corner. We go to the next V-stitch, and we're going to do 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the next V-stitch, single crochet. In the next V-stitch, 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the next V-stitch, single crochet. In the next V-stitch, 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the next V-stitch, single crochet. If I'm going too fast for you, you can hit the wheel I mean, I think it depends on how your face. I think it's the top right corner. If you touch that, there's a playback speed. And if I'm going too slow, you can speed me up. If I'm going too fast, you can slow me down, and to whatever speed you need me to be. Okay? All right, so we did the single crochet. So that means in the next V-stitch, you're going to do 5 double crochets. And the next V-stitch, single crochet. And the next V-stitch, 5 double crochets. All right, next V-stitch, single crochet. Next V-stitch, 5 doubles. Five. Next V-stitch, single crochet. Now, here's the important part. When you get to the other end, if somehow you have skipped a V-stitch, or you put a single crochet between V-stitches thinking this is where it went, and then you did the 5 in the next V, it's going to set your count off. You have to do shell, single, shell, single, shell, single in every V-stitch. If you've gone between any of these instead of just using your V's, then this isn't going to be what you see. Because you should have one V-shell left before you get to the chain 2 corner space. Okay, so if you do not have one V-stitch left before the corner space, if you have ran out of V-stitches, if you have a ton of V-stitches more, you need to go back, slow down, and do it again, because we're only working in the V-stitches, not the space between the V-stitches. All right, so if you don't have one V-stitch left, you need to put me on pause, look back, and see if you've missed a V-stitch or if you put a stitch in between V-stitches, because that's really easy to do if you're not, if you're trying to hurry, and like, I totally get it. So put me on pause, figure out what space has gone wrong, and then frog back, repair it, and then meet me back here. Okay, so we have our last V-stitch. We just did a single, so we do the 5 double crochets here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we've got our chain 2 corner. We're going to single crochet, and I'm going to mark it. You don't have to. Now we're at the top. We're at the top V-stitch here. You're going to do 5 double crochets to do your shell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In our chain 2 corner, we're going to single crochet, and I am going to mark it. Now we turn our work. We are on the side again. So after a single crochet, you'll always do your a fan or a shell in the next V-stitch. So that's going to be our 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Our next V-stitch, single crochet. Our next V-stitch, 5 doubles for our shell. 1, 2, 5. And we're single crocheting in the next V-stitch. And this is the pattern: shell, single crochet, shell, single crochet. That is the pattern for our entire blanket. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single, go to the next V and do a shell, 5 double crochets, single, 5 double crochets, single. All right, this is the last V-stitch before we're meeting back up here, okay? So again, if you're not at that space, once you get down the side, if you don't have, in this last V-stitch, if you don't have where you're ready to do another shell, then you have misplaced something in one of the stitches prior to. So take a minute, see what's happened, put me on pause, fix it, and then come back, okay? All right, so we've done our single crochet. This is our last V-stitch before we meet up with our end. So we're doing a 5 double crochet shell here. One, two, three, four, 5. All right, so we have our 1 corner space that's left. 1 corner space. You're going to single crochet into it, because you always single crochet in the chain 2 corner spaces. Always, always, always. You will never put anything else in there. You will always put a single crochet in a chain 2 corner space. Okay, now if you want to connect here, I don't know how you would connect there because we are starting at a different spot. But instead of doing a slip stitch here, I do something called an invisible join. And I do that because when you slip stitch into here, let me show you. Get in there. When you slip stitch into here, you have this weird space and then this weird connection right there. I don't know. I don't like it. I think an invisible join works so much better after your shell stitches. I cut and I pull the yarn out. So we have our single crochet here. I pull the yarn out. If you want to do a slip stitch into that space and then cut it off, go right ahead. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. I just think the stitch looks better. And it's not as confusing because sometimes you can see a slip stitch and think it's an actual stitch and then you've thrown your count off. Okay, so the way I do it, invisible joins, you go, here's the stitch that we need to connect with. This is the top of that chained double crochet. You go to the stitch behind where you're wanting to go, because we're essentially going to recreate this space or this stitch. So you thread your yarn on your hook, on your needle. You go in behind the stitch that you're wanting to end with. Okay, so we're going into the one behind. Pull it through, leave it, don't pull it tight. We have a single crochet here, so there's only one loop on the top of the stitch that we have to grab. There's no other parts of a single crochet that you have to grab other than the top part of the stitch. So you're going to grab the top part of the stitch, grab your yarn. Now we're going to take, or grab your needle. Now let's remove this. Now you're going to go right into the stitch we're connecting with. And you want the yarn, or you want the needle to go through the fibers of that stitch. Meaning you don't want to run it just straight behind it. You don't want to run it just straight beside it. You want to try to go down the stitch that you're connecting to. Okay? So, we've went through the stitch behind. We came around. We put our needle through the single crochet loop. And we come through the middle of these two. If you have your needle out here and then loop it over, it's not going to work. You have to go through that middle loop. So you go into the single crochet and out through this center loop we've made, and go into the stitch we're going to join to. Let me do it one more time. Okay. So this is where we've got our single crochet done. We're going to put our yarn on our needle. Okay, yarn on the needle. We're going to go to the stitch. This is the stitch we're joining with. This is our single crochet. Now, the bottom of this stitch is right here in this loop. So you just want it to go to end anywhere through here. We're going to go through this stitch. And it can go anywhere through here. I think I went this way last time. And that's not the stitch. The stitch is going this way. So I'm glad I redid it. So because this is part of the 5 double crochets in this V-stitch. So you know it is in the bottom part of this stitch is in this V-stitch. Okay, so that's how we're going to go through. We're going to go through our stitch and end our needle into the V-stitch. Exit the stitch into the V-stitch. Just make sure you're going through the stitches the best you can, not avoiding it like one way or the other. Try to get through the threads of the stitch. Okay. Now, here we go. So we finished our single crochet. We put our yarn on the hook. You're going to go into the stitch behind we're joining to. Go through. Leave that loop. Don't pull it tight. Leave the loop. We're going to go in the one loop that's in a single crochet. All you have to do is just pull your needle through. You do not have to pull it tight, okay? Don't pull it tight. Then you're going to go into the stitch we're joining. And you're going to end up with your hook in that V-stitch where all 5 of those came together, okay? We're going to pull it through the back, not through the front, because you don't want to see that. Okay, so very carefully, we're going to just pull the needle through and stop. Here's what you have. You have your yarn that goes through the back stitch. You have your yarn that comes around that goes back into our joining stitch. That's why when you go through the single crochet loop, you have to go directly into here. Don't go over or around either one of these. You have to go from the loop in. Okay? Now, you're going to pull the yarn in the front, in that front loop that's closest to you. You're going to pull it until this gets close. Okay? Then you're going to grab your needle that has the yarn still on it, and you're going to pull. Don't over tighten it. You want this loop to match your other surrounding loops. Do you see that? So you pull it with your fingers until it's, meeting up or almost ready to meet up with this space and this space. Then you pull this yarn, which pulls that tight, and you want to make this joining stitch look like every other joining stitch, like every other stitch. Do you see? And then when you hold it up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's your 5 double crochets, and you do not have that really awkward gap right here. It's not misshapen from where we go into the single crochet, right? It looks like this side. You have this little thing right there. But as we go along, you're not even going to notice that. Now, you may notice that our end, when we turned and started putting all of those loops in, that this end has gotten bigger than this end. You see how this end, this was the very last stitch on our chain right before that knot. So there's not any yarn to make it stretch out, so it keeps it shaped to a nice small circle. This one, because it's at the end of the chain side where we turned, so we did that chain 4, connected back to our foundation chain and started actually putting our V-stitches in, it's gotten super big. Let me show you how to fix that. And this is the reason why, also why, I cut the yarn here. So we're right here, right? I need to go down into this, through this stitch, and we're going to come to this circle. Trying to make sure, there we go. Okay, you want to keep your work on the back side. What we're doing here is going to stay on the back side. You do not want it on your front side. This is the front right side of the work. This is the wrong side of the work. These are all the back of your stitches. You see how you see all those extra loops, and you don't see that here, okay? So on the wrong side of the work, you're going to bring your yarn down this stitch. You should be right next to it. And now we're at this center point that has gotten so large. I'm going to go just through the back side of these loops all the way around. And here is the loop, or here is the post that we went down. So I went down here, and now I'm going around the back sides of these V-stitches here. Okay, so I made a circle. I came through here, I went around, now I'm coming back out this way. Hold your work and pull. Look at that. If it's still too big, hold it, pull a little more. So here's our other. And here's this one. I like that. I think that matches pretty well with the same hole size. So, without doing anything else, I'm going to weave it back and forth here. So it makes that full complete circle. I think I want a little bit smaller. There we go. There we go. That matches what this is. Do you see that? So once you get it to where it's matching what the that it looks like the other end. So we pulled through this way. Now I'm going to go over a stitch. I'm going to come back through. and you're trying to go through the threads of the stitch because it will help hold it. Alright, so we're going to go over a stitch. So I'll go over this one, and I'm going to go back through and around. And the general rule is 3. You go 3 times back and forth and it won't come out. Cut it off. There we go. Okay, so we did our invisible join. So we got rid of the, you can't see that it's a chained up. It looks like it's a double crochet. We have our corners marked. Okay, so now our next round, we're going to set up the foundation that our shells and our single crochet spaces will go into. I like to end after every shell round because I think it just makes it look better. And you don't have to. You do not have to do that at all. I have a knot or a connection of yarn here. I'm going to cut that out. All right. Now we are going to start the foundation for our next shells. So you get your yarn on your hook. We're going to find one of our corners. You don't want to end, or you don't want to start on the same corner that you just ended with. So I just turn it around. And you don't have to do this one. You could do this one. Doesn't really matter. Does not matter. But we do start in a corner. So we're going to start with a standing double crochet. The way you do that is you wrap your yarn around your hook. And we're going to do something a little different here. So most of the time, I mean like 99% of the time, when you go into a stitch, you're going in under the V at the top, right? When I do that, it leaves this weird big gap. I don't like that. I want the spaces that are left to be by design, not by the stitch stretching or something like that. Like how we closed up that hole. I don't want it to have extra stretched out spaces. I just don't like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the V of this stitch, of this single crochet that we have in the corner, okay? You're going to go right between those two legs of that V, of the V of a single crochet stitch. And then you make sure that you're between the stitch on the back side too, because it could flop over and go here, and we don't want that. We want to be right in the middle of that stitch. Now, to do a standing crochet, standing double crochet, we did the loop over before we put our hook in. You come through. You're holding this yarn so it doesn't just, if you pull it, it will untwist. You're going to grab your yarn. You're going to go through 2. You're going to grab your yarn. I have a hold of this tail so it won't twist. You go through the last 2. That is a standing double crochet. I'll do it one more time, but I want you to look at this stitch. So now instead of having this huge gap here from where you typically go in at the top of this V at the top, we're going through the center of the single crochet. And when you do that, it just prevents extra stretching of the stitch. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go back and I'll show you how to do the standing double crochet. I know, 2 things at one time. Woohoo! Look at all you're learning. And if you already knew it, I'm sorry that we're going through this. But for the people who don't know, so you're standing crochet. I already put my finger right here, loop the yarn around. So I'm already holding it. Now, we're going to go into that single crochet stitch. You're going to catch your yarn and pull it through. Do not let these untwist off your hook. You have to hold on to them, to the back one at least, or they can just go around your hook and you don't have any loops. So you're going to go through the first 2 and you're going to yarn over. You're going to go through the last 2, standing double crochet. All right, and we're in the middle of this single crochet stitch. This is our starting corner. So we're going to yarn over, chain 1. We're going to double crochet V stitch into this corner. You see right there? It doesn't have that huge gap. It's not all weird. I love it. Okay. Now we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It should take you over the shell, and we're going to, it'll take you over this shell and to this next single crochet. Yarn over, go in the middle of the stitch, not up here where you normally do, right here between the 2 legs of the V stitch. Do you see how the V stitch is back here? Oh, I'm so sorry. Do you see how the V stitch is back here? When I went through into this V stitch, I completely missed this leg of the V stitch. You have to go through the 2 legs of the V stitch on the front side and the 2 legs of the V stitch on the back side. So this time I got it, but I split the yarn. Let's do it again. Make sure you have your loop on over your hook. There we go. There we go. All right. So now here's one leg of the V stitch. Here's one of the leg of the V stitch. We're right there in the middle. Just like this one. V stitch leg, V stitch leg. Do not pull on your yarn. If you let go, look, I'll show you. I let go, I'm not holding it. If you pull on that, this is going around and around. You can't make the stitch that way. It has to stay where you have 2 loops on your hook. All right. So we're going in, we're catching the loop. through two, through two, standing double crochet, chain one, double crochet in the same space, there we go. So we have V-stitch, 5 chains. That's what our repeat is going to be. So we did the V-stitch, we're going to do 5 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold your stitch into the V-stitch. Yarn over, pull through. Go through 2 loops, go through 2 loops. Standing double crochet. Chain 1, go into the same space, double crochet. There's your next V-stitch. So V-stitch, 5 across, V-stitch. We'll do 5 across, V-stitch, 5 across, V-stitch, 5 across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to yarn over, go into the single crochet stitch. That one feels weird. Here we go. No. Nope, I totally missed it. The 2 legs of that stitch are right there. Alright, so take it out. Make sure you're still looped over. Did it again. Going in, I'm just splitting the yarn. There we go. So this is one leg, this is one leg. See the V? So you just want to make sure you're between them. Yarn, pull your yarn through. Pull through 2 stitches, yarn over, pull through 2 stitches, standing double crochet, single crochet, chain 1, back into that space. You're going to double crochet. There's your V-stitch. If you keep snagging other parts of loops when you're pulling at, when you're going into the V-stitch and coming back out, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just go slow. Take it nice, slow, and easy. This foundation chain sets up your shells. So it's important that you just take your time, especially just starting it. See the V? I got it right through the V on the front and the back. Loop, catch your yarn, pull through. You will have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Chain 1. There you go. So V-stitch, chain 5, V-stitch, chain 5, V-stitch, chain 5. We're going to do that all the way until we get down to the corner. And we know which where the corner is because if you marked it, it's marked. So 4, 5, loop over, go through 2, go through 2, chain 1, and then your second pass you can just do a normal double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the last one before our corner, and it is, nope, that wasn't right. There we go. It's going to be the V-stitch, V-stitch in every chain 1 space, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if you've had to go back and redo something and you're not exactly at this spot where you're ready to do the corner, put me on pause, get up to where you have your chain 5 and you're ready to start the corner, and then meet me back here, okay? All right, we're going to set up our corner, which is a V-stitch, the chain 2, and another V-stitch right in this space. So you're going to go right in that stitch. We're going to do our standing double crochet first, chain 1, and then a double crochet. That is our first V-stitch. Chain 2. This is our corner. Go in, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So we have our double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So we have a V-stitch here. We have a chain 2. The chain 2 is our corner. We have a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, V-stitch right here. Your corners will always look like this. V-stitch, chain 2, V-stitch, always. Your corners have to have 3 spaces because you're going to do a shell, single crochet, shell. That's how your corners go every single time. If you, I'll talk about that at the end. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're at the other corner. We're going to do our standing double crochet, which by now you should be pros at. Through 2, through 2, chain 1, double crochet. We have our first V-stitch. Now we have to do our corner. 1, 2. It's just like doing another standing double crochet because there's so much space. All right. So we have our V-stitch, our chain 2. We have to have another V-stitch here. So chain 1, go back in. Go through 2, go through 2. There's our V-stitch. Every single corner, V-stitch, chain 2, V-stitch, every single time, every single time. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to continue our repeat all the way around. So you're going to go into the single. Now we're going to go back like we did the other side and do single. Darn it, I keep getting. There we go. V-stitch. Just like we did on this side. So, chain 1, go back in. V-stitch. Okay, so our corners, our V-stitches, and our chain 5s. And that's what we're going to continue all the way down to the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yarn over. Now listen, if you're having a hard time going into this stitch in between the legs of this stitch, you don't have to do that. You can do this like any other normal double crochet stitch. You can go right there in the top of the stitch, do your double, chain 1, and finish your V-stitch. You can do that right there in the top of the single crochet like you've always done, like how you learned it. The only reason why I drop down to do in the V of the single crochet instead of the top is because it adds this extra space. When you do inside the V of the single crochet, it does not stretch the stitch out. There's support on the front and the back side that keeps that stitch from overstretching. To me, it just looks better. But as you're starting, your goal is to get the rhythm of patterns and improve your stitches. Every time you make a stitch, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a double, a single, a half double, doesn't matter. Every time your hook goes in somewhere and comes out with a stitch, you have improved your crocheting skills, because all it takes is the repetition of it. So if you have a hard time with how hard, how tight do I keep this yarn coming from the ball, like you will, the more you crochet, you'll get it. You'll stop pulling so hard because you get tired of fighting getting your hook into stitches. Like you will fix it just because you don't want the repercussion of what happens. Because if you pull this yarn too tight and you strangle the shit out of your stitches, it is hard as hell to get your needle or your hook into your work. And there's only so many times that you're going to just keep trying to jam that sucker in there, or you're going to start letting go of your yarn to let your stitches become a little looser. I mean, seriously, you either learn to fix it or you quit. I mean, I can't get this, and then stop. And the way that crochet works, if you're the type of person that, I can't get this, I quit, you don't want to do this, because there are so many patterns that are so advanced where if you don't understand the basics, which is what I'm going through here, of how to do a standing double crochet when you get to a space. Or going into the V-stitch of a single crochet, or the V of a single crochet, to help stabilize the stitch. I mean, all of those things are in advanced patterns. So if your dream or your goal is to do some, you know, huge, difficult blanket or Afghan, even at the toys, I mean, you have to understand the basics. Like, you have to have the basics down. So you can get frustrated. I can't tell you how many times I have gotten frustrated because I've had to frog work back so much. Like, it's so, yes, get frustrated, get mad, take a breath, walk away from it a second, and then sit down and try it again. And that rewarding feeling that you get, every crocheter remembers that moment where they could be looking, you know, watching a video, hearing someone saying, okay, so you need to do a V-stitch, you need to do the shell, you need to do double crochet, do a chain of 5, and the person knew exactly what they were talking about. That moment, and then you go, okay, let's try something a little harder, a little more challenging, because now you have the basics down. And then you go to something a little bit more challenging, and you'll do the same thing. You'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm not doing this. I don't understand what they're doing, you know, and you'll get frustrated once again. You get mad, you walk away. I would walk away for a day on the harder ones, the intermediates, when I started, because I was like, oh my gosh, all the new stitches you learn, and I'm telling you, hang in there. Every time you put that hook through a stitch to make a stitch, you have become a better crocheter. Just keep at it. Okay, so we are at the corner. If you haven't made to the corner yet, put me on pause, catch up to where we are, and then we'll rejoin. So we are at our corner. I took the stitch off, the stitch marker off. So this is the corner. Standing double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, there's a double crochet V-stitch, chain 2, that is your corner. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Your corners will always look like this: V-stitch, chain 2, V-stitch. Always. I get so frustrated because I get used to chain 5 V-stitch, chain 5 V-stitch, chain 5 V-stitch, and I will do chain 5 V-stitch, chain 5 V-stitch, totally pass it. And then I look at it at the end, right? And it'll be chain 5 V-stitch, chain 5 V-stitch, chain 5 V-stitch. When you do it like that, you cannot create the corner. You can't create the corner that way. I've not found a way to BS around it if you just put one V-stitch here. I've tried like putting the 5, you know, shell in single crochet and then try to shell it in again in one V-stitch, and it doesn't work. You have to have the 3 spaces in your corners. You have to, which is why I put the stitch marker in, because it makes me stop and take the stitch marker out. And then I have to think like, oh, why did I stop myself? That's why. Because I have to make a corner. So we have our corner. We're going to go over this shell, this 5 shell. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we have to finish this corner. So we need a V-stitch here and a chain 2, and then our V-stitch here is already made. So we need a V-stitch, chain 1, there's our V-stitch, chain 2, because that's our corner. And I'm going to slip stitch into the space that we started. Okay, so we have the V-stitch, the chain 2 space, and the V-stitch for our corner. Our foundation row, or foundation, our foundation row to set up for our shells is done. So we're going to do exactly what we did last time. You're going to go into the V-stitch that's right next to your chain 1 space, single crochet. So you have single crocheted into this last V-stitch. You're going to chain 2. That is going to be your first double crochet. Going to mark that top stitch, the third, well, yes, it's the third stitch. The single crochet was 1, your chain 1 is 2, and your second chain 1 is your third stitch. So you're going to mark that, and we're going to put 4 more double crochets into this V-stitch to make our shell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, now we are going to anchor this chain to this shell by you find the middle stitch, the third stitch, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, doesn't matter which way you count it up. It's the middle stitch. You're going to go into the back loop and the associated back loop with the stitch. So here's our third right here. This is the back loop right here. This is the back loop, but we want to try to stabilize it a little better. So we're going to grab the back loop that's right underneath it. We're going to grab this one as well. Okay, so we're going to put in our hook into the stitch and pick up both of these loops. It will help to prevent this from getting pulled like way out of shape. It helps to stabilize it. It's like this, right? This isn't pulling it, causing a huge gap. Well, the same exact thing for this. So you don't chain anything. You stop with your 5, right? You do your 5th double crochet, which is the end of your shell. Directly go into both of those stitches, just like that. You're going to grab your yarn and pull through. Yarn over, single crochet. Just like that. So it's going to stabilize. It's going to keep your shells from going all weird directions, right? It'll keep it between the stitches, between the V's, which is where it should be. And just stabilizes that shell between the 2 V's. We go no chains. We go directly in, yarn over, go directly into the next V, and do another shell. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No chains. You go directly into that 3rd stitch, back loop, and catch the back loop behind it. So you have 2 back loops on your hook. Yarn over, single crochet. It's not pulling up excessively. Let me do just the one back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just going to do the back loop. Just the one single back loop. That's what it does. That's what it does when you do just the back loop only. You can do that, of course. Absolutely, you can do that. I just choose not to. I like it to not be overstretched like that. I like going through both of the back loops so it just sits there. You see the shell, it pulls it up from the back, and it's stable. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to cause your shells to be, flopping around. So that is our pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I got the 5 shell. Sorry, I do the anchor. Oh, I split it. There we go. Single crochet, 5 shell, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anchor the shell, single crochet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anchor the shell. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anchor the shell. I'm at the corner. The corners are always done the same way. You will always have 3 spaces. You will do shell, single crochet, shell. So we're going to do shell, single crochet in that chain 2 space, shell, I always mark my corner single crochets because it makes me stop. Instead of just doing a V-stitch and keep going, it makes me stop to realize this is the corner that needs V-stitch, chain 2 V-stitch. Okay, we're going to stabilize. There we go. Single crochet. Here we're at the corner again. So we're in the first space of the corner. We're going to do a shell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Single crochet in that chain 2 space. Then the shell in the third corner space. If you get off your count when you're doing a shell, do not count the foundation chain stitches. And you can tell it's a foundation chain stitch because it goes through the shell. See, it's going through it. It's not sitting next to it with a stitch here. So you can go 1, because it's connected there, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same thing with this one. You're not going to count these 2 stitches because they're going through the fan, the bottom fan part. They are not part of the fan part. So right above them, you can see that the stitch comes down into that V-stitch right there. So you just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you count these foundation stitches, your fan count will be wrong, and you won't have the 5 to do the center on. All right, so we have the fan or the shell, the single crochet in the corner, and our shell. And then we continue. No chain spaces in here. You go directly into stabilizing that next shell. with a single crochet. Okay. Now, you don't have to do this pattern in a bulky yarn. You don't have to. You can use a medium weight, size 4 worsted weight yarn. You could do it and it still looks great. I have a sample I have been working on. Right here. This is size 4 worsted weight yarn. You can still see the fans. It still looks great, still feels great. But this is the way it grows out. So with this as being the one that we just worked on, we have done 2 shell rows. And we are just now having 2 shells at the top. This is how the blanket grows. It grows by its corners. The corners, as they go out further and further, you add more shells in the center and a shells on the sides. So it literally grows out from the corners. But your pattern, your repeat, is the absolute same. It is shell, single crochet, shell, single crochet, shell, single crochet. And then when you get in that corner, you stop, shell, single crochet, shell, and it has to be 3 spaces in the corner. Has to be. It just has to be. If it's not like that, you have got to frog it back and fix it. So there's no difference between a worsted weight yarn or a bulky yarn. This bulky weight yarn, it just feels fantastic when you pull this blanket on top of you. It's so thick and oh, it's just wonderful. Like, I just love this yarn for this. Worsted weight yarns can be, or size 4 yarns, still look great, and you know, you can use a softer baby yarn, and it'll make it soft. It'll make it soft, but it's so easy to crochet once you get everything going. But look how wonderful when you do the middle of those single crochets, how it just holds that stitch exactly where it should be, and there's not like all this excessive stretching of your yarn. The holes that are in this yarn are there, like they look like they are there with intention. Like we intend there to be a hole there. There it is. I did the same thing with this side with this center hole here. I used that yarn from the tail to go around to tighten the holes up so they match, so you can't see which side I started from. And then all of these like are uniform. It's just, I love this pattern. I love this pattern. And you just keep going and going and going and going and going. And when you use multiple colors, if you switch colors after the fan row, you're cutting it anyway, right? You're going to cut it anyway to do that invisible join. So you can't see where your last stitch was. Right? That invisible join is fantastic for that. And of course, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. You don't have to change colors. You don't have to cut your yarn. You don't have to do any of that stuff. You don't have to do any of it. But I encourage you to step out of your comfort zone and do something that's a little different, to learn something that's different, that will help you in the long run when you want to do advanced patterns. This is an example of an advanced pattern Afghan. There is as much work going on in the back of this than there is in the front, because of how you have to set up the different stitches, the different shells. Let me get this out of the way. Do you see? To do popcorn rounds and popcorn rounds. How about these double trebles to make long stitches? Clusters. This is a little version of kind of what we're doing here, but you catch the back loop to hold the fans in place. So if something like this is what you want to do, then step out of your comfort zone, learn something new, learn a new stitch, learn how to do the invisible joins. And before you know it, you will be making advanced patterns. Okay? I don't want to discourage anyone from being as awesome as they can be. So when you have those moments of frustration, it's okay. It's okay. Walk away, take a breath. And then sit down and try it again. I wish everyone the best on this. There are also many, many patterns for this shell type blanket where people do shells, 7 shells or 7 double crochets in a shell. I've seen a couple where you do half double crochets to set up your middle section. I've seen it where you have to start out with a longer foundation chain. But again, I don't like that how fast it grows lengthwise and not as much widthwise. I don't like that as much, which is why I have designed this using a 40 stitch chain. So it's shorter and it grows more evenly. I think it's the Crochet Crowd, which I absolutely love, Mikey. If you have not seen the Crochet Crowd, do a search for it. He is fantastic. He has tons and tons and tons of videos to watch, how to make every type of blanket, including this blanket where this center part is adjusted. So if you wanted to make a baby blanket, it would start out smaller and go out. Or a twin size bed, which may be a little bit longer, and a full size and a queen size and a king size. Like, Crochet Crowd is awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So good luck to you. I have every bit of faith that you guys can complete this and make beautiful blankets. If you want, send me a picture. Like if you create things that we do here, send me a picture at sandy.lazydaycrochet@gmail.com, and I will post them on the community page. So, all right, I will see you in the next pattern. Bye.